Loi, in this Vietnamese name, the family name is La. According to Vietnamese custom, this person should properly be referred to by the given name Loi. Loi, posthumously known with the temple name Le Tai Tu, was Emperor of Vietnam and founder of the later Le dynasty. Le Loi is among the most famous figures of Vietnamese history and one of its greatest heroes. Biography. Le Loi was the youngest of 3 sons. His father was an aristocratic nobleman in Lam Son. The town was in a newly colonized area of Vietnam which would eventually be called Thanh Ho Province. Lam Son had been established by Le Loi's great-grandfather sometime in the 1330s. His exact date of birth is not certain, but 1384 is generally agreed on by historians. Lam Son was on the frontier of Vietnam, as a result it was further and hence more free from government control. This was a troubled time in Vietnam's history as the Ho dynasty in 1400 finally displaced the Trant dynasty and set about reforming the kingdom. Ho rule was short-lived as members of the Trant dynasty petitioned for intervention from the mighty Ming Emperor Yongle to the north. He responded by sending a powerful army south into Vietnam and vanquished the Ho. Upon failing to find the Trant heir, the Ming chose to re-establish sovereignty over Vietnam, as was the case in the days of the Tang Empire, some 500 years previously. The Ming enjoyed some support from the Vietnamese, at least in the capital of Hanoi, but their efforts to assert control in the surrounding countryside were met with stiff resistance. The Vietnamese claimed that the Ming stole valuable artifacts from Vietnam such as gems, jade, golden pieces of art as well as books. Le Loi himself said that he chose the path of revolt against China's brutal government when he personally witnessed the destruction of a Vietnamese village by Ming forces. Revolt of 1418-1427. Le Loi began his campaign against the Ming on the day after Tet, February 1418. He was supported by several prominent families from his native Thanh Ho province. Most famously were the Trinh and the Nguyen families. Initially, Le Loi campaigned on the basis of restoring the Trant to power. A relative of the Trant dynasty emperor was chosen as the figurehead of the revolt, but within a few years, the Trant pretender was removed and the unquestioned leader of the revolt was Le Loi himself. Under the name Pacifying King, the revolt enjoyed patchy initial success. While Le Loi was able to operate in Thanh Ho province, he was, for 2-3 years, unable to muster the military forces required to defeat the Ming army in open battle. As a result, he waged a type of guerrilla war against the large and well-organized Chinese army. In 1421, one famous story from this time is about the heroism of one of Le Loi's commanders, Le. One time during the early years of the revolt, the Chinese had Le Loi's army surrounded on a mountain top. In an effort to break the siege, Le devised a plan that would allow Le Loi and the main bulk of the force to escape. He pretended to be Le Loi to divert the Ming army's attention by dressing himself in Le Loi's attire and lead a kamikaze-like cavalry charge down to attack the Ming. Le Loi fought bravely but was captured and executed. During the battle, Le Loi and the rest of the main contingency were able to escape. Besides fighting Ming forces, Le Loi and his army also had to fight against ethnic minorities forces whom the Ming bribed, known collectively as I Lao. Although there were many difficulties, Le Loi's army was able to suppress I Lao multiple times. However, because his force was not strong enough at the time, he had to lurk in the forests or mountains of Thanh Ho province. Often due to lack of food supplies, Le Loi had to order the killing of army horses and elephants for use as food. In one particularly dangerous situation in 1422, Le Loi made peace with the Ming army. But in 1423, when his forces were built up better, Le Loi broke the peace agreement when the Ming army captured and killed his envoy. By 1427, the revolt had spread throughout Vietnam and the original Ming army of occupation had been ground down and destroyed. The new Ming emperor, Xuan, wished to end the war with Vietnam, but his advisors urged one more effort to subdue the rebellious province. The result was a massive army, some 100,000 strong, being sent into Vietnam. While the Chinese thought this troop number sufficient, Le Loy's army by this point was much bigger at about 350,000 men. The final campaign did not start well for the Chinese. Le Loy's forces met the Ming army in battle, but quickly staged a mock retreat. The Chinese general, Liu Sheng, urging his troops forward, was cut off from the main part of his army, captured and executed by the Vietnamese. Then, by sending false reports of dissent within the ranks of Le Loy's own generals, the Chinese army was lured into Hanoi, where it was surrounded and destroyed in a series of battles. A Vietnamese historian, Tran Trong Kim, told that the Chinese army lost over 90,000 men. Reaching south. By Nguyen Chich tactic, 1424 Le Loy decided to march his army to Nghe and Plain. On the way, Lam Son army defeated Dakang Rampart, bitten back Cam Ban forces, a commander following Ming. Then Lam Son attacked Trelong. Ming general is Chan Tri, who took his army from Nghe into Trelong to rescue Cam Ban, but was repelled by Lam Son forces. Le Loy surrounded Cam Ban, but Tri didn't dare to rescue, and after being surrounded for a prolonged period, Cam Ban was forced to surrender. As a result of these victories, from the end of 1425, Le Loy was in control all land from Than Hoa to the south, and besieged all the Ming's forces in the region. Emperor. In 1427, after 10 years of war, Vietnam regained its independence, and China officially acknowledged Vietnam as an independent state. Le Loy took the throne and was declared Emperor of Dai Viet. Le Mi, the chief eunuch of Le Loy, and 10,000 Vietnamese were killed after Ming China crushed and defeated their invasion in 1427 of a Chinese town. Le Loy formally established the Le dynasty as the Ming Shu, and emperor officially recognized Le Loy as the new ruler of Vietnam. In return, Le Loy sent diplomatic messages to the Ming court, promising Vietnam's loyalty as a vassal state of China and cooperation. The Ming accepted this arrangement, much as they accepted the vassal status of Korea under the Joseon dynasty. The Chinese largely left Vietnam alone for the next 500 years, intervening only about once every 100 years. Le Loy embarked on a significant reorganization of Vietnamese government, clearly based on the Confucian system of government which was developed by the Tang dynasty and Sung dynasty. He also elevated his longtime comrades and generals such as Nguyen Tre, Tran Nguyen Han, Ly Sat, Pham Van Sao, and Trinh Ca to high official rank. The government rebuilt the infrastructure of Vietnam, roads, bridges, canals. Land distribution were rewarded to soldiers that contributed in the war against the Ming. New money currency was minted and new laws and reforms were passed. The system of selecting government administrators by examination was restored, and exams were held at regular intervals throughout Le Loy's reign. From 1430 to 1432, Le Loy and his army fought a set of campaigns in the hills to the west of the coastal area. Then, in 1433, he became sick and his health declined. On his deathbed he appointed Ly Sat as the regent for his second son, who would rule after him as Ly Tai Tong. Internal palace politics quickly decimated the ranks of Le Loy's trusted counselors. Tran Nguyen Han and Pham Van Sao were executed in 1432, and Ly Sat, who ruled as regent for 5 years, was executed in 1438. Nguyen Tre was killed in 1442. Only Trinh Ca survived to an old age, and even he was executed in 1451. Myth and legend. Many legends and stories were told about Le Loy. The most famous story concerns his magical sword. Much like King Arthur and his sword Excalibur, Le Loy was said to have a magic sword of wondrous power. One story tells that he obtained the sword, inscribed with the words "the will of heaven" from a golden turtle, a demigod to the local people. The stories claim Le Loy grew very tall when he used the sword, and it gave him the strength of many men. Other stories say that the sword blade and the sword hilt came together from different places, the blade fished out of a lake, the hilt found by Lý Lôi himself. The stories largely agree on what happened to the sword. One day, not long after the Chinese had accepted Vietnam as independent, Lý Lôi was out boating on a lake in Hanoi. Suddenly a large turtle surfaced, took the sword from Lý Lôi belt, and dived back into the depths. Efforts were made to find both the sword and the turtle, but without success. Lý Lôi then acknowledged the sword had gone back to the golden turtle and caused the lake to be renamed the Lake of the Returned Sword, located in present-day Hanoi. Countless poems and songs were written about Lý Lôi, both during his lifetime and in later years. Lý Lôi is looked upon as the perfect embodiment of the just, wise, and capable leader. All future Vietnamese kings were measured against the standard of Lý Lôi, and most were found wanting. Every town in Vietnam has one of the major streets named after Lý Lôi, but in Hanoi the name is Untitled Street, or the founder king of the dynasty.